Hi there, I'm Wendy and welcome to my YouTube channel. This video is one of my beginner series and today I'm going to show you how to work 4 rounds of crochet starting from a ring and creating a flat circle, which also makes an ideal coaster, which is a brilliant gender neutral gift to make for someone. So we're going to be working the UK treble stitch, and if you follow American stitch terms, this is known as the American double crochet stitch. In this beginner series, I'll be taking you step by step from making a slip knot right the way through to darning in your ends. And I will also put some links in above and in the description box below of the start times for each round so that you can come back and go directly to the correct point. Just before we make a start, don't forget to subscribe to get updates on my future videos and hit that bell to get notifications as soon as they go live. Now, today I'm using some acrylic double knitting yarn, and the one that I have is Stylecraft Special DK. I'm not sponsored by them, but that just is my go-to yarn. And I've got some wound off here that I'm going to make a purple one. I'm using a 4mm hook, and I've got a needle to darn in my ends afterwards and some scissors to snip my ends. Now, you don't have to use double knitting. You could use Aran weight yarn with a 5mm hook, or you could even use some chunky yarn with a 6mm hook. I'll also add a couple of links as we go along, just in case you need a little bit more help with how to make a slip knot or how to make a chain, or you need to see how to make the treble stitch in more detail. So let's get going and start crocheting our circle. This is the left-handed video, so if you're right-handed, I'll put a link in above here now and in the description box below to take you to the right-handed video. So the first thing that we're going to do is make a slip knot and 5 chain. So you can make your slip knot in any way that you prefer, but if you're not sure how to make one, I'm going to show you one way now. So I'm just going to lay the yarn across my fingers with the end of the yarn running along the outside edge of my little finger, and then I'm going to hold it in place with my thumb. So now I'm going to wrap that yarn around my first 2 fingers and form a cross, and I'm going to hold that in place with my thumb. And then I'm going to wrap it around again lower down and hold that in place with my thumb as well. So the top loop here is the first loop that I made, and the lower loop is the second loop that I made. So I'm going to take my hook underneath the top loop, grab the lower loop and just gently pull it through and take it off my fingers, and that will create a slip knot, which is the flexible loop that sits on your hook. Now we're going to make 5 chain. So I'm going to put my finger on the hook, take my yarn up the back, over the top and down the front of the hook, and then I can grab that little chain underneath the hook. That was where we made the slip knot here, and then turn my hook downwards and scoop back through, and I've made 1 chain. Pop my finger on the hook, take the yarn up the back, over the top and down the front, grab that little chain, turn the hook downwards and scoop back through, and I've got 2 chain. Another way of doing this is taking the hook in front of the yarn, underneath the yarn, and then back up behind the yarn, and that has created the same movement that we've just been making, which is called a yarn over. And then again turn the hook downwards and scoop back through. So now I have 3 chain on my hook. So I'm going to do this again. I'm going to take my hook in front of the yarn and underneath the yarn, and I've made that same movement and have created a yarn over. So the hook comes back and I'm going to scoop it through, and I've got 4 chains on my hook. Again, once more, I'm going to take that hook in front of the yarn, underneath, and I've made another yarn over, and I've got 5 chains on my hook, and that's our chains complete. So we're now ready to turn this chain into a ring. So to do this, we're going to ignore this first little stitch at the bottom, which is this tight little one down here. That's the slip knot that we originally made. And then we're going to work into the first chain that we made immediately afterwards. So we're going to take our hook and we're going to pop it through one side of the V's. So I'm going to pop my hook on there, and the yarn comes over the hook, and then we draw the hook back through that chain and through the next chain, and we've made this tiny little circle. So if you can see, it's like a little loop. I'm going to hold it open. Okay, so now it might look a little bit distorted at the top here, but don't worry about that. That's absolutely fine. That will get lost in your work as you're working your first round. So the first thing that we're going to do now is to make 3 chain. Okay, so now when we look at it, we've almost got this sort of lollipop effect. We've got 3 chain that comes down to this circle. Now, the reason that we've made 3 chain is that it's going to stand up and represent the first stitch of the round, and this is going to apply for every round that we make in this project. So I'm now going to be working trebles, and I'm going to be working them into the circle itself here, and I want 12 stitches altogether. And so this 3 chain is representing my first stitch, so I need to be working 11 more stitches. Now we're going to be working the UK treble stitch, and if you're using USA terms, then that's going to be a double crochet. So to make my first treble, I'm going to take my yarn over the hook and then pop the hook through the hole, and then the yarn goes over the hook again, and I'm going to draw back through, and I've got 3 stitches on my hook. Then I'm going to take the yarn over the hook again, and I'm going to draw that hook back through the first 2 stitches, and then the yarn over the hook again and draw it through the last 2 stitches, and that's 1 treble made. So our shape is actually looking a little bit like a key now. So I'm going to make another one. So it's yarn over the hook, and then the hook goes front to back through the hole, the yarn goes over the hook, and the hook comes back through, and I've got 3 stitches on my hook. Yarn over the hook, draw back through the first 2 stitches, and then yarn over the hook and draw back through the second 2. So I'm just going to do this once more. So it's yarn over the hook, hook through the hole, yarn over the hook, draw the hook back through to the front, yarn over the hook, draw the hook back through the first 2 stitches, yarn over the hook, and draw it back through the last 2 stitches. Now, whenever you're working in a circle, I always think it's a good idea periodically, say every 3 or 4 stitches, to hold the stitches under the hook between one thumb and finger, and then grab the ring with your other thumb and finger and just gently pull them apart. And this will just open up the circle. It will open up that working area, and it will make it clearer for you to be able to see where you're working. And then if you look at the outer edge of your work, you can see that you have these V's going around the edge. So if you look at mine, I can see that I've got 1, 2, 3 V's. I've worked 3 trebles, and I've got my chain standing up here at the beginning of the row. So now I'm going to continue till I've made my 11 trebles, and then I've got this 3 chain representing the first one, and I'll have completed the row, and I'll be ready to join it up before starting the second row. So this is the time to hit the pause button, and I'll see you back here when you've completed your row. So I've now made my 11 trebles, and I've got this 3 chain at the beginning that's representing another stitch. So I've got 12 stitches in this round, and I'm just going to join it to the top of the 3 chain that we made at the beginning. So I'm going to count up from the beginning, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to pop my hook through the stitch here, and then yarn over the hook and pull back through the 2 stitches, and that has created a slip stitch and joined my first round. So now we're ready for round 2. So we had 12 stitches all in this round, and in the next round we're going to have 24 stitches all together. So the first thing that I'm going to do is make 3 chain, so that's going to represent my first stitch. So I now have 23 stitches left to make, and we're going to be working into these V's. Okay, so we're going to be working through both sides of the V, and we're going to make 2 trebles in each stitch. So this 3 chain here is 1 stitch, so we're going to make another treble in the same stitch. So it's yarn over the hook and through both sides of that stitch, yarn over the hook and pull through, and I've got 3 stitches on my hook, yarn over the hook and pull back through the first 2, yarn over the hook and pull back through the last 2. So now we're going to move on to the next stitch, and we're going to work through both sides of the V. So it's yarn over the hook, and then the yarn goes to the back of the work, and the yarn always goes to the back of our work. So the hook goes through both sides of the V from front to back, the yarn goes over the hook, pull back through to the front, and we've got 3 stitches on our hook, yarn over the hook and pull back through the first 2, yarn over the hook and pull back through the last 2, and then we're going to make another one in the same stitch. So you can see where we've made the stitch, it's just pulled away slightly, so it opens up a small hole. So it's yarn over the hook and through that same hole through both sides of the stitch, yarn over the hook, draw the hook back through to the front, 3 stitches on our hook, yarn over the hook, pull back through the first 2 stitches, yarn over the hook and pull back through the last 2 stitches. So we've made 2 trebles in that 1 stitch, so I'm going to do it again, yarn over the hook, moving on to the next stitch, so through both sides of the V, yarn over the hook, draw the hook back through to the front, and I've got 3 stitches on my hook, yarn over the hook and draw through the first 2 stitches, yarn over the hook and draw back through the next 2 stitches. So I'm going to make another treble in the same stitch, so it's yarn over the hook, hook through both sides of the stitch, yarn over the hook, pull the hook back through to the front, and I've got 3 stitches on my hook, yarn over the hook, draw back through the first 2 stitches, yarn over the hook, draw back through the second 2. So I'm going to work all the way around now, working 2 trebles in each of these stitches going through both sides of the V, and so it's time again to hit that pause button, and I'll see you back here when we've finished and we've got 24 stitches in total in our round. So I've now worked my second round and I'm back to the beginning, and I've got 23 trebles in this round with the 3 chain that I made at the beginning that represents another stitch. So that's 24 stitches in total. So again, I'm going to count up 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to connect with a slip stitch to the top of the 3 chain that I made at the beginning. So it's simply a hook through that first stitch, yarn over the hook and draw that hook back through everything so that you've just got 1 stitch left on your hook again. So we're now ready to start round 3, and we had 24 stitches in round 2, and in round 3 we're going to have 36 stitches. So the first thing to do is to make your 3 chain. So now instead of 36 stitches, we're just going to be making 35 trebles. Now to do this, to make it work, we're going to work 2 trebles into one stitch and then 1 treble into the following stitch, and we're going to repeat that all the way round. So I'm just going to make my first treble in the same spot where I made my slip stitch and have just made this 3 chain. So this counts for my first 2 trebles in one stitch. So now I can move on to the next stitch, and I'm just going to make 1 treble here. And now I'm going to make 2 trebles in the next stitch. So it's in exactly the same place that we're making that second stitch. And that's made an increase. Okay, so we've got 2 trebles in this stitch here, and then 1 treble in the next stitch. And again, 2 trebles in one stitch. And then 1 treble in the next stitch. So I'm going to say again, it's time to hit the pause button and work your way round, making 2 trebles in one stitch and then 1 treble in the next stitch, and I'll see you at the end and we will connect this round up again. So I'm back now after just making my last treble, and I've got 35 trebles made in this round with the 3 chain at the beginning making the last stitch. So I've got 36 stitches in total. So again, I'm going to look at that 3 chain and I'm going to join with a slip stitch to the top of my 3 chain. And I'm ready now to make my 4th and final round in this project. So now for this one, we're going to make 3 chain again. That's going to represent our first stitch, and we're increasing by 12 stitches in the round again. So this time we're going to be working 2 trebles in one stitch, and then we're going to be working a treble in the next stitch and a treble in the following stitch. So basically you're working 2 trebles in one stitch followed by 1 treble in each of the next 2 stitches. So I'm going to make my first treble in the same spot where my 3 chain is coming out of. So I'm going to the base of the stitch here. So that's my first treble and my first increase made. So that's my first 2 stitches in one stitch of the row below. So now I'm just going to be working 2 trebles in a row. So that's 1 treble in the next stitch and then 1 treble in the following stitch. So again, I'm going to work 2 trebles in the next stitch and then 1 treble in the next stitch, and again 1 treble in the following stitch. So I've worked 2 single trebles in a row. Then again it's 2 trebles in the next stitch, and then 1 treble in the next stitch, and again 1 treble in the following stitch. So again, I'm going to repeat this all the way around and I'll meet you back the other side. So it's time to hit the pause point again, and then we will just fasten off and finish off. And we're back, and we can just finish with a slip stitch in that last and final chain. And now we're ready to just snip our yarn and fasten off. So just to finish off, we can take a darning needle and just pop that through the thread, and then we can just run that through the back of our work around the center. And just snip those ends. And again with the yarn that we just finished off, we can just run that through the back of the base of the bottom of the row. And our circle is complete. So I really do hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and it would be lovely if you gave me a thumbs up, and remember to subscribe and hit that bell so that you get notifications of my new videos as they come out. So for now, I'll say thanks for watching. I'm off to have my tea, so happy crocheting and see you soon. Bye!